Today, I'm going to explain how I power up my fridge that stays in my Jeep all the time. I usually use it on AC. It runs about 180 watts on AC 120. So what I usually do is it's permanently mounted behind the driver's seat in the back. It fits in there nice and perfectly. It's the EcoFlow Glacier. It's capable of making ice cubes in about 20 minutes or so. And it's a pretty nice refrigerator. It's got a battery on it so that you can actually take it, pull it out of the vehicle, take it down to the beach, put it on a picnic table or whatever have you. But what I do is I've got this EcoFlow. It's the Delta 2, and I use it to power the refrigerator on AC. And as you can see right now, this is sitting at 51% of charge. It'll hold that charge for about 99 hours, according to it. On the front of it, it's got the two USB-C 100 watt, and then it's got a USB-A's. You got two fast chargers and two regular chargers that you can plug into there to charge, some of the older batteries, cell phones, stuff like that. The battery on the EcoFlow Glacier actually has a USB-C that you can actually charge like your cell phone while you're down, let's say you're at the beach with your cooler. You can be using the battery to charge it and the battery to charge your cell phone. Now this has a port on the back here. This is for extra battery. They sell a case like this. It looks exactly like this, but all it is an extra battery. And you can put this in here, and I think you can daisy chain up to 4 of them. I don't see the need for my usage, but you could actually put this in your house and charge, you run your house off of it if you had like an power outage. They sell what they call an alternator. It is a device that hooks to your battery, and there's cables that come back, and it charges in here, and it charges this up at 800 watts. So it'll charge it up with, an hour and a half, I believe, fully from 0 to 100%. I don't prefer to charge any batteries at a quick rate. Seems to tear them up a little bit faster than normal. So I don't use this, but that alternator has got some nice features on it. When they first came out, they were like $600. I think they're down to $300 now. But if your car battery actually dies, you can use this to charge your car and jumpstart your car through the alternator device. It's kind of neat. It's kind of a gimmicky to me. I prefer my system here. But on the back of here, you've got your AC outlets. You've got your 12 volts, like a cigarette lighter. And then you got your two little tiny ones. But right here is the charging port. And it's got a universal AC adapter, which there's my UPS. I could take that, plug it in there. It'll charge. You can set the charge rate on this all the way up to 1200 watts. So it'll charge up real quick. Or you can drop it all the way down to 200 watts off of the AC. But this is the device the connector that I'm use the most. This is your standard connector that a lot of your cell phone, or not cell phone, but your solar chargers and everything connect into from there. This maxes out at 15 amps. So charging into that, if you put 20 amps, it'll only take 15 amps and you'll be good. So there's that. All right, so I'm using an old device. It came out of a telco office. This is a 12 volt by, I think it'll go 12 volt or 230 volt, and it'll put out 100 amps, 115 amps DC. So I've got my number 4 wires here. I've got a fuse here, and then I'll come into this and I'll explain it in a minute. What I'm going to explain now is the fuses. This is just a standard fuse. You plug it in like that, and if it ever trips, that little thing comes out so you know it tripped, and you can go fix your issue, and then it's reusable. Okay? But somebody showed me this nice little fuse. And if you take the cover off, all right, so as you can see, this actually mounts to your battery. So there's a direct link on this bottom piece. It's just a standard piece of metal, but if anything happens downstream, it'll blow the fuse, and only this portion will be touching the battery, and it'll be hot. Otherwise, everything else will be bad. This post does not touch this. It's isolated from it. What does is this little fuse. Now, this is an 80 amp fuse. I probably need to swap it out for 100 amp. But on the bottom, it's got this metal ring. That metal ring touches this metal piece, and it supplies the voltage through the fuse. And then on top is another metal ring. So when you put this on there, and then you put your lug down on there, it makes contact, and it heats up this, or puts power to this, and then you can lock everything down with your washer, your lock washer, then a nut. Tighten it all down. Pretty nifty little thing. You can get these off Amazon. I think this bottom piece, the mount, is like 13, 14 bucks, and the fuse was 17. And then this cap actually goes onto there and runs over and puts on there. I think that's the way I'm going to go. I'm going to put that on the, so it's directly on the battery instead of using one of these fuses. Okay. All right. So from here, you come into this. This is what they call a links distributor. And they've got what they call a distributor. They got a power in, and then they got a shunt. It's all on this link. On this link. And what this does is it's got fuses in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can put what size you want on there. This is the positive bus bar. Down here is the negative bus bar. And I've got it coming into here, but I could also come into here, or you could take another one of these and hook it onto here and bolt this onto there on the second one. Okay, and they're pretty neat. They link together, but they also have one. It's called the power in. It does not have the fuses. It does not have this electronics in here. What it is it's a direct, this is on here, and then the negative's on here, and you can add like 4 power strings. If you got 4 battery strings, you can put it right into here so that it would supply power on the bus bar. Or if you've got 4 solar arrays, you can put them in there, and it'll supply the power straight to here. They also have a shunt. The shunt hooks on here as well, and from there it's Bluetooth. You can get into it, and they have the app so that you can look at your batteries, make sure they're okay, make sure everything's looking all right. This does not have Bluetooth, but it's pretty nifty neat. The only thing I have a problem with is you need to buy that shunt in order for these lights to work. Without that, the lights don't work. But somebody came up with a nifty thing. There's this little wire that comes with the kit, and then there's a little converter in there, and then it hooks to the battery. And what it does is it converts 12 volt to 5 volts so that it'll power the electronics in here. And that way you don't have to pay for that shunt. Now the shunt runs about, I think it's $335. And I kind of don't think I need that. I'm not really too concerned about my battery. The nice thing about this is it's got these little dividers here. So here's where you put your negative terminal for your output, and then you pop down and you put your AC or your positive onto here so that they go in here like that. And it keeps them nice and neat and separated so nothing shorts out. And then I've got 40 amp fuses and two 60 amp fuses. I'm going to hook my ARB air compressor that runs about 60 amps onto here. Okay, so that's just, and then it's got two screws that bolts down. Next, I come out of here and I've got number 6. This is a piece of Romex wire that I just had laying around. And I come into what they call the Orion DC to DC converter. What this does is it takes 12 volts in on this. This is your ground, and these are your two positives. So this is the input. So it takes 12 volts into here, and it converts it to 24 volts here. Okay. So in that case, I can upcharge this to 24 volts, which will allow me to take this plug and plug into the back, and it will actually put 15 amps through that so that it'll charge at the full rate. If you just do 12 volts, plug it into this, it's only going to give you like 200 watts. It's not going to charge it at the full rate. So there's a problem with it, right there. By upcharging it to a 24 volt, it works a lot better. All right, on this, there's a circle off to the right in the middle, and that is, you can stick a little tiny screwdriver in there and actually change the voltage. You can, adjust it up and down. So what they recommend is that you put a load on this and with 12 volts into it, and then adjust it so that your output with a load hits about 24 volts. In this case, I've got it set for, I believe it's 28.5 volts, so that when I get a full load, it'll actually drop it down to 14 volts. And then on the left-hand side, there's a little green connector there. This is kind of like your on-off switch. What there is there's this little switch or a connector right here. You plug into the right-hand side, and if you hook the cable, this red cable, up to an ignition switched circuit, okay? And on the Jeeps, there is a cigarette lighter in the back that you can have it set so that when you turn on the switch, it supplies power to that outlet. So I could actually run this from this over to that. Or I can run a wire all the way up to the front and find a switched fuse and plug it into there. And with this, once you have 12 volts on this, it turns that on so it starts working. In this case, for demonstration, I'm just going to plug it into the 12 volt power there, and when I plug it in there, it'll turn it on. Okay. So with all that, let's go ahead, plug in the power supply. Oh, by the way, this little connector comes with a jumper. If you put that in there on both sides, what it does is it takes the 12 volt off of the main there and puts it back into it. So anytime this is plugged in, it'll actually be charged, turns on and charges. And so if your vehicle isn't running and this is charging or powering up charging your EcoFlow, it's going to be pulling quite a few amps, and it'll kill your battery quick. So you definitely want to have your engine running while this is running. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. All right, so let's just plug that in. This is pretty noisy. And I got my meter here. And as you can see, it's putting out 14.8 volts. All right. So that isn't turned on yet because I still got my fuse open. But the minute I do turn that on, you'll see the lights in there. And the power will go green, and the 4 other lights they will only go red if your fuse is blown, okay? So as long as everything's good, those lights are off and the power is green. If I come over here, as you can see, I got my 14.8 volts coming in, but if I look at this side, there's nothing. Now 0.3 of a volt, and that's because I don't have that little green plug in. So let's go ahead and plug it in. I'll put you down for a sec. Alright, now it's plugged in. So now if I go across here, you see I got my 28.3 volts. And so this will have 28.3 volts into it to plug into that. And if I go to amperage, zero it out. As you see, there's no amperage because this is not hooked to anything. I can come over here and hook to this, and there's a 0. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in. And that is pulling 389 watts of charging it. And from here, this says that I've got 16.5 amps. That will probably ramp up. When I have my fridge connected to my power, this will actually be powering the fridge through there, through the AC. And so this could jump up all the way up to 40 amps. And that's why I've got a 40 amp fuse in here, and I've got number 6 wire feeding it. Because that will jump up as that's taking more and more current. Okay? And then if I come back over here, I've got 29.2 amps that I'm pulling out of here. This should be 29.2 as well. I think I just don't have a good connection. Yeah, there we go. 28.9. And it's charging that up just fine. And so as I'm driving, going from one spot to another, you know, to find a nice place to camp, this will be charging up during the day and running just fine. Now, EcoFlow also has this little device. This is called a River 3. It's just a 250 amp hour AC. It's got DC as well and a couple USB ports. This is very portable, weighs about 7 pounds. And on the side of it, it has the same charging ports. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that out of there and bring it over here. And see, this is sitting at 86%, and it's only going to jump up to about 110 watts, 111, roughly about 110, and it'll charge this up in about 2 hours at 110 watts. You could also take one of these cords with a cigarette lighter, plug it into a power outlet, and it'll actually charge it at like 5 watts. Very small, but it charge up throughout the day if you only use this at night. When I set up my rooftop tent, I usually take this up, and I can connect the lights inside there I can charge my cell phone, the whole works from up there. So this is how I charge up all my stuff while I'm driving out in the back. And this will sit on the shelf that's in the back, and this will tie down, and this will tie down by the rear window on one side of my Jeep. And then I got these cables running up to the battery along. And so, like I said, I still got to hook my ARB compressor in here. Number 4 wire is actually rated for 95 amps. It pulls 60, my ARB, and this pulls, roughly 30, so that's 90. So I should be good to go. I just need to change that fuse out to like a 95 or 100, probably 100. That's the best one they got. But that's how it goes. Any questions? I believe the link to all of these. This is currently running on eBay, or not eBay, but Amazon for about $140. I can't remember what this one. I think it's $140 as well. The distributor's a little bit more, and then, like I said, the shunt's $355. So I don't really need that. The little converter down here, you can get 4 of them on Amazon for 14 bucks. And then you just have to splice in a couple rings and splice that onto the end, and you're good to go on that. This cord, it's number 10 gauge, so it'll handle the 15 amps. Everything looks good on it. So, any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them for you. Have a good day.